Hey guys, happy Wednesday afternoon. We are going to work on percent of quantities today. What we're going to do is by the time you're done with this lesson, you should be able to find the percent of a number. So it sounds kind of confusing when you say percent of a quantity, but essentially what we're going to do is just find an amount or a quantity that represents by the percent. So it's just saying if I have 100% of something, the quantity would be 100%. And so then it wants us to figure out a certain portion of that quantity, 5%. So first of all, let's go over here. And sorry, this is kind of blurry. I'm not sure why it's doing that today. But this says base, and you'll be able to see it right in your book. It says base, and that's our vocabulary word. And so on your composition book, you should be writing down base as your vocabulary word. And right down here, it's going to tell us what a base is. It says the model shows, this model here, this bar, that 100% refers to the whole quantity or the base. So essentially it's saying that I'm going to adjust this real quick because I don't know why it's making everything blurry. So let me see if I can zoom in and it might make it a little bit better here. Hopefully I don't make you sick. That's better. So it's saying this whole bar, no matter how much it says it is going to be 100% of what we're talking about. And they like to call that the base. The base number is 100% of what you're talking about. So now that we know what the base is, 100% is the whole quantity or the base. We're going to find 5% of 160. So if we're using our bar up here, the total amount would be 160. Filling up this whole box would be 160. And it's saying find only 5% of that. The total amount will be 160, which is 100% of what we're talking about. If I have 160 teddy bears, then the 100% of what I have would be the whole 160 teddy bears. But they just want to know how much is the part 5%. So the way we figure that out, again, they have two methods here. And the first one, it shows that 100% would be 160. And so they say, what if I wanted to find 1%? Just like we did on ratios and rates, we find 1 unit. This is essentially breaking it down to 1 unit percent. So it's saying if I break it down to 1%, I should be able to times that by 5 and find out 5%. So the way we break it down to 1% is the word percent, remember, just means for 100. So anytime we want to find out if 160 is our total amount we have, then that would equal 100%. So we just put it over 100%. These numbers, 160 is going to be equal to 100%. So we just put that over 100. 1%. If whenever I divide something by 100, it's just going to move my decimal place 2 places over. So here's my number 160, and if I'm dividing it by 100, it's going to move my decimal place 2 over, which would make 1.6. And if I have 1.6, then I just need to say that's my unit for 1%. So 1% is equal to 1.6, and I did that by putting it over 100. When I divide it, it just moves that 2 places over. So I take 5 if I want to find 5%, and I times it by 1.6. If I take 5 times 1.6, it equals 8. So 5% of 160 would equal 8. So my base is 160, and 5% of that would equal 8. Here's method 2 for that. If this is easier for you, then definitely do that one. Pick whichever one's easiest. Remember, our base is 160, or 100% of what we're talking about on our bar is 160. So what we're going to do is just take, if 5% is what we're looking for, they put 5 over 100 and then they times it by 160. So what they did down here is just reduce this number, because 5 can go into 100 20 times. So 5 goes into 5 once, it goes into 120 times, and they times it by 160. Then I take the part that they reduced down, and I'm doing the same thing as I'm doing over here. They put it over 100, but the reduced part of 100. And so they said 160 over 20, and if we just divide that into it, 20 divided by 160 equals 8. So we need to remember, whichever way we do it, we're going to have to put it over 100. We can either break it down and reduce it first, or we can just go ahead and do it over 100, whichever one's easiest for you. One of the things that we need to note is of means times. So whenever you see 5% of 160, it's just saying times 5% by 160 over 100. So don't forget, don't just times 5 by 160. You have to times 5 by 160 over 100, which, if you break that down to a decimal, is 1.6. So let's go on to the next page. All right, so moving on to the next page, I'm going to do problem 1 with you. Let me move my camera here. Problem 1 I will do with you. So if we're using our method here, essentially what we're doing is we're just taking the whole amount. So it's saying that what is 40% of 720? So our whole amount, the 100%, would be 720, because it's saying that's how much I have. How much is 40% of it? So however much I have is going to be the 100%. So essentially what we would be doing is taking, for method 1, it says how many centimeters is 100%? Well, we just talked about that and we said, well, there's 720 centimeters, that's the 100%. Now it's saying if we use our bar model, 40% of that is going to be what it's asking us for. So it's saying 720 centimeters is what you'd write in this box, and it wants 40% of that. And remember, the of means times. So essentially what we're going to do is times these, but there is one thing we need to do first. It's saying the model shows 100% of 720 centimeters. So we need to break it down to 1% first, like we did for 1 unit rate or 1 part of the ratio. And then I am going to go ahead and 1%, it's going to mean that I go ahead and remember, both 100% is the same as 720 centimeters, which is what we decided with our bar model. 720 centimeters is 100%. So that's what I would put over. And so if I go ahead and divide, because essentially that's what that means, is division. So if I go ahead and divide 720 by 100, it's going to come out to 7.2. You can either use your calculator for that, do long division, or you can just remember that if there's 2 zeros, it moves our decimal place 2 places to the left if we divide. So we took 720, moved our decimal place 2 places because to the left because we're dividing, and it just comes out to 7.2. So that's a whole step that you can actually just avoid and move your decimal place. But since it's asking you to do it, we're going to do it. So it's going to equal 7.2 centimeters. So 40%, and then we took 7.2 now is what we have since it was over 100, and we are going to times that by our 40%. And if I go ahead and do that, we take our 7.2 times 40, and we're going to times that. 7.2 times 40 is going to equal 288. So if we have 288 as our answer, then essentially it's just saying 288 centimeters is the same as 40% of 720. So if you guys can just remember, this is asking us to times 720 times 40%. So what I need to do is I put my 720 over 100 because that's equal to 100%. Whenever I'm trying to write a percent, I put it over 100. So I put my 720 over 100, and it came out to, just moving my decimal 2 places, 7.2. Then I take 7.2 times my 40%, and it comes out to 288. So go ahead and do number 2 on your own, and you can either use method 1 or the method 2 right here. If that makes more sense to you, use that, and we'll do number 3 together. So go ahead and pause the video, do number 2. All right, we're back, and we're going to do number 3 here exactly the same way. All it does is says, here's my 30%, so I know that's not my whole 100%, and so it's asking me 450, it says, is my total. That's going to be my 100%. So I need to take 450, and if right up here, it's saying 100% would be 450. I need to find 1% of that. So I would put 450 over 100. And when I times that, it moves my decimal place twice to the left and will give me 4.5 kilograms. Then I go ahead and take that, and I'm going to times it by, because remember, of means times, so I'm going to take 30% and I'm going to times it by my 4.5, which is 100%. And if I do that, it will come out to 100 and, sorry, I think I put those numbers in backwards. Nope, that is correct. It's 135, sorry. So hopefully you can pause the video and do number 4, 5, and 6 on your own, and we'll go over to number 7. So number 7, it says, use the model to help you. This is just kind of doing the opposite. Before we had to times when we did this, but now when we times, now it's asking us, it's saying there's 27% of the students in the school that are in grade 6. This is 550 of the 540 of the students. How many students are in the school? So it's not giving us the total number like it did over here on our other page. It's saying that 27% is 540. So essentially the non-confusing ways to do that is, instead of timesing, we're just dividing. Now we have to do the opposite because it's asking us to do the opposite function. It's not giving us the total, it's giving us what 27% is, the amount of students 27% is. So essentially I need to say, okay, 100% of my students is 540 right here. And then you should be writing this down in your composition book as we go. And so it would say 540 is 27% of the students. So over here, our model shows that, sorry, I think I'm a little bit blurry again, so I'm going to zoom in. The model shows that 27% of 540 students. So 1% of that we would be dividing again, just like up here on your worksheet. It says if we have 8%, and 96% of, or 96 of those CDs equals 8%. They're not saying the whole amount is 96, just 8% is. So the model shows 8% of 96, 8% is 96, 1% of that would just be 8 divided by 96. Would equal 12, but remember they're asking us for a percent, so I need to times that by 100%, and it would equal 1,200 CDs would be the total amount, our base number. So down here, it would say 8% is equal to 27% is equal to 540 students. So I would just say 5 divided into, or 504, sorry, getting ahead of my mouth here. 540 divided by 27 is what we would put here, and that would equal 20 students. But then remember, that is not my answer. My answer would need to be times by 100, which would make 2,000 students. So hopefully you can do number 8, number 9, and number 10 on your own, and we will talk about that on Monday. So please do number 8, number 9, and number 10 on your own, and we will talk about it